So
Okay.
hello, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sitting down with a longtime friend, Colleen. Thank you,
Yep,
thank you, thank you for being here. How
of
are
course.
you?
I'm good. And I know I was actually thinking about it the other day, and we have known each other since like grade five,
Yeah,
I want to say.
I was
Like
going
maybe
to
even
say,
younger because
I
French
think
immersion.
younger.
Yeah, like at least grade four. Fred C. Cook was grade four. So at
Yeah.
least grade
So we
four.
did French immersion. Like that's
Yeah,
where, okay. Cause you know what? I did the French and I think I blacked everything out from 4 to 8. So
yeah, yeah. So from four, so we weren't in the same classes, but we were in
okay.
the same school.
Got
So
it.
yeah,
Oh, I do
who's
remember
Fred
that.
C.
I
Cook?
have a picture of us and our other friend, and we were all in the same color, like same shirt. It was like pink and white, but we were wearing it opposite. I remember
Oh
seeing
my,
that. Hey, do you remember that?
I remember that. I do. I remember that. Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God.
So
Yeah.
that's just dating how long we've
Come
known
on.
each other and our journey, which I'm sure we'll get into. But I want to
Yeah.
say thank you for being here. It has
Thanks so
been
much.
a beautiful reconnection, I will
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to share with our listeners a little bit about where you're at right now, and then we can we'll dive into a bit more.
Absolutely. So I am an entrepreneur through and through.
Mm.
I have actually a couple of different businesses that I am currently involved in. One is a financial practice where I kind of my key clientele are families. Um, then I also have a coaching practice where I specifically focus in on real estate agents. And then
Mm.
I have a third business where I am focusing in on combining the two, both real estate, helping them with their finances, as well as coaching them and bringing that all together.
Yeah.
I also have a couple of other passion projects. My family has greenhouses, so I help out there with marketing and so forth. And lastly, I do investor relations too for a couple of companies that are going public. So I am an entrepreneur through and through. I do a lot.
Yes. Okay.
Like to have my fingers in many things.
Yes, I love that. So it's interesting because I think when you talk to entrepreneurs, it's like these types of passion projects fuel the soul. So it's almost like some people are like, oh my God, where do you find the time? But it's like, how do we not find the time for the things that we love to do? Like that's kind of that mindset. But
Yeah.
I know that time is kind of a mind fuck at the same time. But so
Yeah.
that's what you're doing in the entrepreneurial world. And where are you at in motherhood?
So I have a wonderful 2.5-year-old little boy named Theo, and I have a bumping baby girl who is 6 months old,
That's right.
and she keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
So I am right in the thick of the
Mhm.
motherhood journey, like
Mhm.
right getting into the really exciting part when they are both little individuals who think for themselves.
Oh yeah, it's quite the transition for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
They're both of them were pretty good babies at the onset, but very, very different personalities.
really, eh? And we were
Mhm.
talking a little bit before we pressed record, just, kind of coming both from the space of NLP and understanding
Mhm.
neuroscience and just behavior and communication. And I was saying, so I NLP the shit out of Hannah, and I mean it from the sense of like, I understand like her programs, because she hasn't been influenced. She hasn't hit that age of 7 where she's like, oh, there's an ego now. It's just like,
Yes.
she just operates fully and completely wholly herself. And so I just love looking at the lens of like, oh, she's big picture thinking. And this is what,
Yeah.
I just love doing all of the things.
I know. I love because with Theo and seeing him doing everything, like even looking at how he's learning, is he kinesthetic? Is he auditory?
Yes.
Where's he coming from? I'm seeing it all because I'm really, really visual. And
Okay.
I've started to realize that he has a lot of my personality traits too, but he's not visual. He's
Oh,
more auditory. Very
oh,
much so. So it's interesting because you're kind of having to stretch. You're like, oh, I'm used
yeah,
to learning and teaching this way. I have to now do it in a different way. So it's
totally.
really fascinating to see him. And then Aria, she's completely tactile right now because of her age. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's
yeah.
interesting. I mean, I'm going to write this down, but I
Mhm.
find that I have loved my education and my training in the world and how it relates to motherhood. But I also think that also has kind of mind fucked me quite a bit. At times it freezes me because I'm like, ooh, like, ooh, is this going to be the thing? What kind of limiting belief? Or I'm like always
You're
watching.
overthinking.
Yeah, I'm totally like, not all the time, but
Yeah.
Right. Like there's those moments where I'm like overanalyzing. I'm like, is this a boundary? Should I give her her power? Not that I have to give her her power, but you know what I mean? Like when she
Yeah.
her voice and she negotiates, like, no, mom, I want to watch JoJo now because it's,
Yeah.
7:30. It's like managing, like, yes, I see your power and I appreciate it. And here's the boundary.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're meaning. You're constantly analyzing internally, how should I react and how should I be responding to this given situation? Because you're like, do I want to empower you? Do I want to set in a specific boundary right now? Or do I want to encourage you to push outside of the boundaries? And even if I put a boundary in, do I actually want you to push past it? Did I put it in pretending to put it in?
Yeah.
It is. It's a complete mind fuck. Because with us knowing everything that we know from all of our education, we're like, thinking about like how it's all going to play out and everything.
Oh yeah.
And then also, I don't know what it's like with you and Brandon, but with me and Rob, who's my husband for those who don't know, and my kid's father, when we're talking about like how to handle issues.
Oh yeah.
Like right now. So Rob was driving the other week and someone cut him off, almost caused Rob to get into an accident. So, and Rob had Theo in the back. So when he was driving and this happened, Rob obviously was like, oh, fucking guy. Well, since then, every time something has either gotten Theo's way or pissed him off, he starts going, fucking guy.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he mutters it too. So you have to try really hard not to laugh. And I know lots of parents have gone through this when their kids start swearing, oh, fucking whatever, they go through this. But from our standpoint and knowing what we know, I'm like, how do I navigate this specifically? Like, normally you'd be like, you don't say bad words, only adults can say those words or whatever. But then I'm like, but he's expressing anger. So how do I teach him, to express this anger and frustration? While
and they're
not modeling. To laugh at him muttering, fucking guy. He even said that to his no-no, which is his grandpa, was in his way. And Theo's trying to get around him and couldn't and starts saying, fucking guy.
Wow. What an expression, eh? I think what that lights me up is like the connections. Like he's connected that, like if I beep in the car, which I'm like, yeah, hey, like it's your turn, or hey, you didn't use your blinker, or oh my God, you're really not using your brakes. Hannah will go, Mama, oh no. And I'm like, everything's good. Mom's just telling our friend in front of us that he didn't, put his blinker on. And she's like, Mama, oh no. And I'm like, no, like it's all good, because she's like I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure she's an empath. And like, I feel she's just so open. So I find myself not having to be, but I'm also choosing to be very mindful of my emotions and be very mindful of like, are you feeling mine or are these yours? Like, which ones are we drinking here?
Yeah. And that just puts in a whole other layer. Right? Like
a whole other layer.
Being a parent's hard enough. And then, also being aware of what exact impact you're having.
Yeah.
It can be a mind fuck for us too.
Yeah. And I find in the world of entrepreneurship, like we're doing these things because we have a purpose, we have a passion, we have a mission, we want to serve, we want to have influence, we want to have an impact. And then you just take it back and you go, oh my gosh, it's in those moments you realize I have the biggest impact in this little child's life right now. And I find for me, it has been one of those tests of just being my best self, like in the dark and in the light. Like she gets to see me cry. She gets to see me have frustrated moments. I'm not going to hide those things. But what I have been trying to stay in alignment with is in those frustrating moments, how I respond to them. Not to her, but to me. I'm like, and then I like express myself. I'm like, Mom is really frustrated right now. And I love you, but your behavior right now is just like, it's really frustrating. And I love you. And your behavior is frustrating. I love you. And your behavior is frustrating. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, like, I'm sorry. This is just getting to be like, this is a lot. And she knows now that if she's frustrated, like she goes, okay, like you just kind of like breathe. I'm like, if that's what we can do, those are our tools to managing those big ass emotions. Cause I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't happen. Like those big ass emotions
No.
during these toddler years. Oh my God.
Well, and it's scary for them too, because they're experiencing these emotions
So
and
much.
they don't know that it will pass. Like the biggest thing that I have found with Theo when he's having a temper tantrum often is that he's having this meltdown because he doesn't know that this emotion is going to go away eventually.
Yeah.
He's terrified. He starts off angry, but then he gets scared because he's so angry and he's trying to express.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I know.
It's honestly like, even when he's screaming and really angry, I'm like, oh, my heart hurts for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember it was actually today, this morning, I was putting her in the car seat to go to daycare and everything was really, really good. And then all of a sudden she wanted to do something. It was like her mind changed. She wanted to go back. I had no idea what she wanted or what she needed. And I was like, dude, like we got to go. Like we are already like 17 minutes late. Like mama's got to go. I let her sleep in. So I was like, this is my fault, but like, we got to go.
Too. That was my morning as well.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like we finally just got back onto a little bit of a routine from like the time change. So I was like, I just needed her to sleep till 7:40. I was like, you need this.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was crying getting into this car seat this morning and crying on the way home. And all I kept doing, like old Nicole would have been like trying to make everything better and like talking her down and talking her through, like trying to be like all social worker. And then this morning I was like, yo, like just let it out, dude. Like it's fine. Cause like there was nothing wrong. She's like she was fed. She had everything she needed. Like we did all those checks, but I was like, you're just going to have to cry through it, not cry it out. You're just going to cry it through it. And then she just like started to breathe. And all I'm doing at the front is trying to breathe. Cause I remember I get so triggered by that cry from when my early postpartum days, like so triggered because she was so little. I had no idea what I was doing. And that for me, so much. I think for me, mostly my parenting has come down to recognizing what is triggering me and taking responsibility for it rather than trying to calm her down so she stops crying so that I stop being triggered. Don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. It's really interesting because like literally with Aria, because she's 6 months old, I know exactly what you're talking about, that cry. Because even right now I get it. Like when she cries, it creates like that anxiety because, Theo's different. When he cries, I'm like, what's wrong? Like, why are you crying? Let's talk about it. And he can, for the most part, communicate.
Yeah.
But with Aria, like, I'm like, okay, like, are you okay? Does something hurt? Are you like, because if Theo's hurt, because that's what our biggest fear is, I think, is not like, oh, are you hungry? I've got a solution for that. Let me feed you. Oh, you're tired? Okay, well, let's try and get you sleepy. Like put you to bed. Oh, you're cold? Let's change you. Or you're hot? Let's change you.
Yeah.
But when they don't feel well and they can't properly communicate that to you, it breaks your freaking heart. And and the anxiety increases because they can't communicate that.
No. I know.
So it's scary. So I know exactly what you're talking about. 100%.
It is.
And it's interesting when you're in both of those worlds because Theo being older and can communicate, and then Aria being younger and can't, and then navigating the two of them, and then having Theo have a meltdown at the same time that Aria's having a meltdown.
Oh my goodness.
Time that I'm on a conference call and I'm like, mommy wants to have a meltdown. I tell you. Situations.
That's very interesting. Like I've been having these waves of, yes, I'm like so ready. I'm ready. I can feel it. I'm so ready to have a second. Like, let's do it. And then the most recent wave is like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like how do people do this? Like, you get into a routine of like, this is when she goes to bed and this is when you do your thing. And then it's like, things are kind of predictable in a way.
Yeah.
And then you think about having a second one and I'll have these moments of pure bliss and joy. And then I'm like, but remember those nights when things were so dumb. I'm like, no, I don't know.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you. You won't be prepared. You never will be. You can't be.
No.
So here's what happened. Rob and I were like, yeah, you know what? Like, cause like Theo was like, we didn't think we would get pregnant. And then we were pregnant. So with Theo, we're like, oh, obviously like it was like not easy to get pregnant.
Right.
So then with Aria, we're like, January that year, we're like, hey, like it would be nice to have a second child, like a little friend for Theo. Like, yeah, let's start thinking about that. Literally, probably when we even had that conversation, I was already pregnant. And I was like we went from like, oh yeah, and I was thinking in my head, like I'm mapping it out because I'm all about mapping and preparing. I'm a planner, so I plan. Yes. So I'm like, it'd be really great to have a baby in and around December or so because the holidays and time down, and because I'm an entrepreneur, so there's no time off. Like I'm working. I literally both kids work 3 days after having the kids.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, December would be great, like December, January or so, it'd be great. And also pandemic, we were just at the start of the pandemic. So I was like, like it'll probably be past by this point. No.
Wow.
Pregnant.
Wow.
Found out I was pregnant. And I was like, oh crap. And she was born a little early, but Thea's birthday is October 1st. And she was due September 27th.
Oh my
goodness. I was like, oh my God, now they're going to like be born like a weekend apart or maybe even on the same day, all that anxiety. So,
wow.
And I had the worst pregnancy. Like Theo, I had a really bad pregnancy actually too. Cause
really?
I was in the hospital. I had to have surgery at 8 months pregnant because I had kidney stones. Oh, and that was like my business, the business that I had back then, the business fell apart. The business partnership fell apart. Found out I was pregnant. Like all of these things are happening. My house fell apart. We had a septic flood in the basement.
What?
Everything happened at one time. And then I found out I was pregnant.
Wow. Colleen.
Yeah.
Geez.
So all that timing. Got kidney stones. Spent the remainder of my pregnancy in the hospital. Had him early because complications after the surgery. So horrible pregnancy, right? Wow. Still, Aria's pregnancy was worse.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Now, not physically worse per se, but worse for me from the mental standpoint.
Yes.
From also, I was sick the entire pregnancy. So I was sick. I was morning sick all pregnancy.
Really?
On the medication. I had really low iron. So I felt like I was like being sucked dry every day. And we were in the
pandemic.
Exactly. So we didn't even tell anyone I was pregnant until I was 6.5 months pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went through most of my pregnancy completely alone, not telling anybody.
Right.
While running my businesses, multiple businesses, while having a toddler home full time.
Everybody breathe.
And feeling like I was like literally being sucked dry because I was so sick.
What?
Yeah, so
how did you get through? How did you get through this? Yeah, but how?
This is why I say you can't be prepared. You'll never be prepared. Because ultimately in the end, you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like
could anybody, I know, could anybody have seen a pandemic coming? Like, no. And like for the length that it's been going on and where we're at today, like that to me, I think that's the other thing that really paused, I think probably in March, I was like, yeah, like let's do this. And then it happened. I was like, okay, we'll just put the brakes on for a moment because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So the mental load. So, okay, we're talking let's unpack this for a moment because this podcast is really featuring our stories of motherhood, entrepreneurship. So let me start with this question because why not? What does redefining motherhood mean to you? I mean, hearing all of this, what does it mean to you to redefine motherhood? How does that show up in your world for you?
Oh God. Okay. So I come from a family that is not like the most traditional family, but Rob comes from a traditional family. So like my mom worked with us my entire life. Like she was an abuse counselor for women and children. She worked, my dad worked. I was used to two parents working, whereas my husband came from a family where it's a family business. And outside of the busy time of the greenhouses, his mom was a full-time home mom. So not that he ever expected that I would be a full-time stay-at-home mom, but he had expectations that were aligned with a full-time stay-at-home mom. So, and not that that was bad at all, because it was just a growing process for both of us.
Right.
But redefining motherhood for me was taking what he had for hopes for the way that the children would be raised and what I had for career hopes and figuring out that happy medium in between.
Mm-hmm.
And then when shit didn't go right, saying, fuck it, I'm doing the best that I can do every single day. And some days are going to be, some days I'm going to be like, I'm winning at this game. And then some days I'm going to be like, how the fuck did I make it through this day?
Yeah.
And go to bed and just wait for the next day to come. But every day is a restart. So defining motherhood, especially during this pandemic, has been an absolute daily process. Every day I'm redefining it. And some days I'm like, I have to just be okay with what happens today. And maybe it's going to be a mommy focused day where it's going to be more about the kids today. And the work that I have might pile up a little bit and go in the back burner. Or maybe today is going to be a really smooth day with the kids. Aria is going to be right on track. Theo will be, great little boy, and I'll get so much done, and I'm going to, be ahead tomorrow and not have to worry about so much work. It's an every day is different.
Oh, I love that though. Redefining it every day.
Yeah.
Gosh. Oh, okay. So I know what that creates for me. What would you say that represents for you though? Like when you can say to yourself, I'm going to say permission, like permission to restart every day. What kind of muscle do you feel that is building in you?
Resilience.
Yes. Good. I was like, that's where I was going. But yes, I want to see where you were at with that too. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Like when we started, so for anyone who doesn't know, when Nicole started as a coach, I was one of her first clients. We actually, like when we started, because we started the NLP path in and around the same time. We're both NLP. Yes. And so I went on it for like sales training coaching. So I didn't go the therapeutic route, but Nicole did work with me. And it was amazing because it really helped me kind of create new boundaries. Yeah. Is a good way to say it.
Yeah, totally.
So when like all of this happened and we started dealing with like the pandemic and being on both sides of the spectrum, being a parent as well as being a mother, it was a lot of work every single day. And resilience, from what I learned with you way back when, my shit was hitting the wall, as we say, and I was trying to redefine my business and everything. What I found was everything that happened to me leading up to the point of being a parent right now helped prepare me to endure. And then being a parent during all of this has helped me continue with resilience every day. It's very helpful having those tools. Yes. Like all of the coaching tools that we've done, and all the coaching tools that I've learned myself. Yeah, it's been very helpful, and I am so grateful and so lucky for having those tools. And that's what I also teach a lot of people too: is utilize tools that are available to you. But the resilience has been just key. Yeah, because every day, like I said, like this year. So as I mentioned, we waited until we were 6.5 months pregnant to tell anybody that we were pregnant. Literally the following weekend is when we found out that my dad was going through testing to diagnose if he had cancer. And then fast forward 2 weeks after that, we found out he had stage 3 lung cancer. So we've been going through that, and it's been resilience. Like this year has been such a hard year for so many people. Like even people who have done very well this year will tell you it has been a hard year. Oh, yeah. So I think resilience has been like a keyword for everybody this year too. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you. I'm so honored to have started my coaching journey with you. What thank you. What year do you think that was? Do you remember? Was it 2013, 2014?
2013, I think.
I think so.
2013 into 2014.
Yeah, it was like December or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Remember my basement?
Yes, I do. I remember. And again, I don't have the best memory, but I do remember going there. And I remember having sessions. Oh gosh. And it was just, it's just so powerful to kind of reconnect and come back and go look at all the things that have happened. And I have to agree with you. Like The tools, yes, 100%. I think that these are the tools, the life-changing tools that really create that foundation of like if there's anything to endure, like what you have just given us a snippet of the things that have happened, right? Like, let's just be honest, you're coming back. We're going to talk more. But you have given a snippet of what has happened, but the resiliency and managing the tools. And I think that's like something I would love to debunk in the world of motherhood, in the world of entrepreneurship, is it's like, you see all these people crushing it on Instagram and crushing it on Facebook, crushing it in the world. And you're like, oh, their life must be so easy. And it's like, God, like that is the last thing that it is. It's not that it's like easy or that someone else has got it all figured out. It's just the navigating that in between space. It's like how we're navigating on a day-to-day, how we show up, how we treat ourselves in the shittiest times, in the darkest of times, is now propelling us forward to say, I can do another day. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And allowing yourself to have the bad days too.
Yeah. Oh, good one. Yeah.
Part of life is having shit flung at you and feeling shitty sometimes. And that's okay. Cause like, you know, it's hard. You get people who are always positive, but then you actually know that the people who are like continually positive and there is no in between, they're the ones who are actually suffering the most on the inside, because they're having to perpetuate that positivity too. So allowing yourself to have like those really shitty days, like there are still days where Rob comes home and I'm like, like he comes home and I'm falling and he's like, what happened? I'm like, I've had a really bad day. And he's like, okay, like take your time. And you let it out. You gotta let it out, because that's what allows you to reset. You let it out and then you can reset.
Oh, and I just think, yes. The messages that we get from childhood or teen years or media, you know, this isn't to blame all parents, because we are parents. This is not about a blaming of parents. This is about acknowledging the messages that were received. And I think, you know, there's no time better. Like in this time, in this age, we have such a privilege to be able to sit here and kind of go, how was I raised and what do I want to do differently? How do I unlearn the things that are no longer supporting me? Like that is an absolute privilege, and it's an honor to be able to say, my parents did the best that they could. Teachers did the best that they could. And here I am, and I'm ready to make it different for my daughter, for my children, for their children, for their children. Like that's where we have evolved as a population, as a society. And so when I say all of this, I say it with an abundance of compassion, but it is this like really breaking down the messages we picked up along the way. I think for me, one of the biggest ones was perfectionism. And I would say I've been doing this work, to 2012, but perfectionism is definitely not something I have like looked at hard on and was like, coming for you, perfectionism, here I come. And I would say it's just been the last few months of parenthood where I'm like, that perfectionism is like strangling me. Like this is too much. Like I am like, get out of your head, get back in your body, all is well. And so, it is really about, all I see is like being in the ring, like, you know, in like a boxing
match.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just me up against myself. And I just bounce back from one of those like really bouncy bands, as I imagine them being super bouncy, and like bouncing back and then coming back in and recentering. And it's like, it's just this ebb and flow of like choosing how I'm going to treat myself that day. Don't you think that's like one of the biggest differences in having those shitty ass days? It's like, I just want to have a shitty day and accept it as that and not beat myself up for having a shitty day. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think we tend to afford compassion to other people far easier than ourselves. Like I can sit there and I can look at other moms and I can be like, wow, like look at what she's killing it. Like you. Okay. So I follow you on all of your social medias and I'm so proud of you for everything you're accomplishing. And I know how hard it is. And I know how hard you've worked to get there. And I've got so much compassion and so much pride for you for everything that you've done and how hard it must have been to get there.
Yeah.
But we very rarely reflect that same towards ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And that is where so much of the fucked up persona that we have as parents and entrepreneurs and mothers in general. and even, and however you, you associate gender or gender neutral
Yes.
fathers, even, however it is, we project so much more criticism onto ourselves. Like we're the biggest critics of ourselves, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's very important too, like that whole imagery that you created of the ring and bouncing back and forth, the more that you can tighten up that ring so it's not such a big bounce.
Yes.
The better it is.
Wouldn't you say that's like resiliency? Like if there was a visual, like, cause you said you're very visual. If there was a visual of what resiliency looks like, it's like, sometimes it can feel as though it's like out to the end of the world. And I keep hearing the word bounce back, but not like in the sense that we've come to know, in the sense of like, behavioral flexibility. I think this is what we've talked about before. Behavioral flexibility to kind of like move with the wind and move. And I always come back to the CN Tower. It's such the CN Tower was built to stand super, super tall. But if you actually look at it, it's actually moving and bending with the wind. And it's like, okay, so if the CN Tower can bend with the wind, so can I.
No, exactly. It shows that even concrete has flexibility, right?
Yes. And even engineers of the world will tell you that, like Branson Engineering is like, yes, that's how it was designed. And so it's like, at what point did we decide as humans, as women, as mothers, to just put all of that pressure? And I would say for 2020 and 2021, the theme is like, just take the pressure off. And that's what I hear in your story of 2020 and all of the things that you've had to navigate, coming through. Oh my goodness, love. My goodness.
I know. It's been very big growth years, but I have the ability to continually look, and this is stuff that you taught me too. I'm continually reframing where I'm at, coming at it from a different perspective. I can look at 2020 in so many ways. I can say, oh my God, it was the hardest year ever. It sucked. But then I can also look at it and say, I've got my baby girl, and we had like a safe delivery, and he actually got to be there for so many women. They didn't even get to have their spouse in the delivery room, like there are all these things. So there's the yin and the yang, there's the counterpart, and you remember to look at it and reframe it. And you realize how grateful, like I practice being grateful often. So I agree.
I agree. Gratitude is definitely, I think we underestimate the power of gratitude, because it's not bypassing, we don't want to bypass. It's not a tool to bypass the tough stuff. It is an opportunity to really be with, like lean into the stuff that is happening and being able to recognize it, accept it, and then kind of like move through it. I think that radical acceptance of the things that is what moves us through,
Totally agree. I totally agree.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So this was way too fast, and we're going to just have you back again. So just to kind of wrap this up, if you were, I usually ask this question, like, what would you tell your younger self as a mother? But I'm just going to go to pandemic lifestyle and be like, what would you want your pre-pandemic motherhood you to know now?
To be kinder to myself, especially like I went into motherhood during this pandemic still with and I had done it before. So I went into it thinking that it was all going to, be manageable the way it was. And when it was harder, because my daughter is a much different baby than my son was. And my son was the baby that everyone joked wasn't even existing. He was so easy.
Wow.
So I was really hard on myself, and it caused a lot of tears and a lot of fights with my husband. So I wish that I had told myself to be kinder to myself and to afford myself the same empathy that I give to others. Even like when you come back to like the whole body, like I'm all about body positivity.
Yes.
I'm all about that, right? I'm like, like I love this new trend. I love that women are like, look at my body. It's great. But I would be very honest. I hated my body, and I still hate my body more often than not. Post baby, even though I'm looking at all these other bodies saying, oh, look how great they look. Like, good for you. Like, embrace it and show it off. Right. And then here I am being a little hypocritical. So empathy and being a lot more kind to myself. I wish that I had told myself, because then I could have done the work in advance to feel good now. And now I'm just doing that work.
Right. Which is, so thank you. Thank you for keeping it real and for being honest. Yes.
Of course.
The world needs more of this. But yes. So what I will say too is it's like being able to look, like you said, like I'm being hypocritical, but the fact that you were able to look at that and own it and do the work, that's the gift. The more we push that away, the more it's like the universe is like, here's your beautiful gift box. It's like wrapped in like it's a beautiful blue box and it's wrapped just for you. And you're like, nah, I don't want it, because it doesn't look that pretty. It doesn't look like inviting. And so I think it's the work is going, okay, I'm ready to dive into that, because that's that shadow side. That is that darkness. And I know that there's like beauty in there,
Absolutely.
So, oh my goodness. Just thank you. And thank you. So I hope that this was a lot of fun. I hope that our listeners who are tuning in today can take this with you to be kind to yourself and to express that same empathy and level of compassion that you do for others, and do it for yourself first.
Yes, me too.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And please
you.
come back.
Absolutely. No, let me know. I'm here whenever.
Okay. Bye, love.
Thanks so much.